everybody. It is the end of January and I am enjoying some coffee in the evening and keeping going on my seed starting and working the plan. And tonight I wanted to share with you a couple things. I wanted to share with you my spreadsheet and how I'm adjusting and tweaking things as I go. And then also we're going to plant, what are we going to plant? I'm looking at my sheet here. We're going to plant stock seeds. And little Miss Emma just pulled the squeaker out of her fuzzy ducky. Hold on one second. She's a crazy puppy. She says hi. But I'm really excited because this year I'm getting a lot more organized and I'm figuring out how to really maximize the season. So I'm going to take you through my spreadsheet, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of color coded, and we'll see how this goes. Since I started planting the last week in December, so I've been doing this for about a month now, it is a relaxed pace, and I realize I'm only 1 month in and I don't have a ton of things to take care of, but it just feels like a really relaxed pace because I'm staggering things along the way and it isn't this big blitz or rush all at once. And my hope is that planting outside and doing the steps in succession planting is going to feel the same way. And what I do every single week when I have a new seed packet of different types of seed to plant in my trays, I am studying the packets. I'm looking back at the research I did in the spreadsheet just to make sure I'm like, okay, this week, what am I doing? You know, like grab one of these, study the back, make sure I know what I'm doing. And I'm always referencing the Cut Flower Handbook and the Cool Flowers book because a lot of the stuff I'm growing is in these books. And it's been awesome. It's been really fun. And then I get to take my time enjoying learning about each plant and seeing what they do. And then lastly, I want to give you an update, show you how the trays are doing. I would say Lysianthus, a little bit of a wah-wah. They are, at this point, I'm going to review them and say, now that I'm a month in with them, they're annoying. Just flat out. They are an annoying plant to grow. And I'm only 4 weeks in to the 12-week marathon, and I have no idea if they're going to survive. So we'll see. I'm already not real enchanted. Like they're a beautiful plant. It's been fun to have something to grow, but they're already really annoying. And then I've got snapdragons coming out, and my very first little tiny baby eucalyptuses. So stay tuned. I want to show you those, and we'll get going. All right, so welcome to my 2025 garden plan spreadsheet. This cannot be more geeky, but I want to take you through it. What I have done is I've built a pretty logical sheet here, and I'm going to zoom in just to make sure it's big enough for this video. So what we have are, of course, the months across the top, all the way through frost date. I thought, wouldn't it be handy to have a line for each of the different types of plants that I'm going to grow, and use it as a way to document things a little more thoroughly. In the past, I was a little more haphazard and just didn't care as much, but this is helping me keep things organized and sane, and also make sure that I don't forget things that I have bought in seeds for already or wanted to do something with. It's easy to think, oh, in this garden I want to do this, in this time of the year I want to do that, and then you forget, which is not good, because what if you miss your window? What if you don't get the seeds going when you want to? It's easy to miss things. So I feel really good about how this is capturing all the things. And as I scroll down, you can see on the left there's a lot of different things that I'm planning to grow. And this isn't everything. This is a good start. And I built this right after Christmas, over the holidays. I sat down for, a good few hours to like pour through and start to put things in here. And what I have done is I've started to do some color coding and things that make sense to me. It may not make sense to other people, but it makes sense to me. And I'm going to just keep tweaking as I go. So I have built out the weeks with the first date of the week throughout the year, so I can see roughly how many weeks are in each month. I've also documented when my frost dates are, because that's super important for your zone. So the last average frost date for my zone in 4B is, I wrote it in here, May 1st through May 10th. That has changed. It's actually pulled up to be earlier. It used to be around May 15th. So I am excited because that widens the growing window a little bit. And that way I know that that is a roughly safe time frame for me to get more of the tender things going in the garden. And then that means my growing window really is this whole section over here on the right, until I get to my first average frost, which in zone 4B here is October 11th. So if I expand that, you can see that a little bit better. So October 11th here. You know what? I have it on the week of September 29th. I just found a typo. I need to nudge this back. There we go. So that way I can skip back. I can plan back from there and do kind of cascading planning when you back out the weeks backwards. And that way I know like when I can do fall planting, when I can be putting things out, when I should be starting seeds prior to that last frost date in the spring, etc. So that's my initial bookend framing that I have started. And then I also know this season I want to for the very first time, I want to try doing a low tunnel with like plastic, or I got to figure out what I'm going to do, or frost cloth, something over it. So that is outside with the frame up, ready to be used. Never have done that, don't have experience, so we'll see how it goes. And so in the purple here, I have denoted things that are going to go out in that tunnel. So I can keep track of, okay, I want my lisianthus to be out there. I want my stock flowers to be out there, my nigella, my bachelor buttons, ranunculus, and snapdragons. And that way I can kind of keep track of those things. And I also know I wrote here, I want to be doing that planting about 6 to 8 weeks before my last average frost date of May 1st to 10th. So I've backed that out to March 10th to March 24th. Like in that window is when I should be doing that spring planting with those things in purple out in the tunnel, because the idea is that these cool flowers, these things in the book that are documented really well, they should be able to survive being sowed into the ground early, as long as they have that shelter and that cover, and it acts like a greenhouse. So therefore it expands my growing season, so I can be doing a lot more outside weeks before that last frost, which is just mind-blowing to me as a really obsessive gardener who's been doing a lot of gardening over the years. I've never done that. And I started to do winter sowing last season, and I was just blown away by the idea of mimicking greenhouse. Even when it's winter, you can grow things if you put the right protection in place for plants. It's just amazing. So that is a gift. And I'm really hoping that spacing things out and staggering the tasks and the different steps will give me more of a sense of peace and flow, and not feeling so rushed and chaotic sometimes. Because the whole point is to enjoy gardening. It's not to be stressed out. It's to be like, oh, I love these plants. Oh, isn't it cool that something's growing, and taking in all of the moments. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then if we back up to where we started here, my lisianthus seeds I've noted here December 28th. And then as I go, I can see my tasks, because what I have done, and this is where it takes time and research and work, literally every single plant that I have in here, every single row, I have researched when the maturity date is. So for example, I've looked at my lisianthus. I have backed out based on their maturity date. So understanding from seed plant all the way to harvest, like when they're blooming and they're ready to be cut as flowers, how many weeks, or how many days that is. And I've mapped that to about May 19th, roughly, give or take. And I've color coded when they are growing outside in green, and then that purple when I'm going to plant them out in the tunnel. So that would be March 24th here. And then if we back up further, you can see this whole yellow swath of time is them being grown indoors. So right now they were planted the last week in December, and we are now at the last week of January. So they are growing indoors. And what I love is I'm also documenting the plant dates, which I was really bad at in the past. And you kind of forget, you just do stuff and you just keep going. And then you go, oh, when did I plant that? And it would be so great to know when things were planted so that I can go back and understand when they are going to be ready for the next stage, when they are going to be ready for harvest, and literally project it out. But there's no reason that this can't be projected out. Yes, does nature and do other factors get in the way? And yeah, you can have things happen that slow down your plants or, make them go sideways or whatever. But generally, you have a template here of what the roadmap looks like, when you can roughly expect things to happen. And it's very comforting to see that and kind of know the lay of the land. So I've done that with all the plants here. And you can see as we plug along in January, I planted my snapdragons the week of the 19th. And then looking at this week of January, like I said, I need to start my stock seeds. So I'm going to do that tonight. We're going to plant some stock seeds. And I don't have many more things to do until the week of the 17th. And what's great about this is I can shimmy things as things need to move for my schedule too, if I'm busy during a given week. And this one, this is an interesting example. So blue plurum, I have no idea if I'm saying that right. I wrote down start seeds indoors this week. Well, I just got my packet from Johnny's. They delivered this week. And I'm looking at it, and then I also looked it up in the book, and it says to direct seed. And both sources say, meaning plant outside. So now I'm going, why did I think that I should plant it indoors and put that down on my sheet? I must have made a mistake somewhere in my research because there's a lot of variables to look up. And so I am adjusting my sheet. So this is the beauty of going in and tweaking my sheet. So what I'm going to do instead is I looked up whether or not it's a cool flower, meaning it can go outside early in the tunnel, and it can. So what I'm going to do, I'll do this in real time here. I'm going to take this segment away, delete that, and literally say, I'm not going to plant these until March 10th, assuming I can work the ground and it's not completely frozen on the top. I'm going to plan to work up the ground and put these in the ground the week of March 10th instead of this week at the end of January. So I just think it's great because then I can cross-reference things. I can change my plan here, but I still know that they're ready to go. The other thing I got to check though is, do I have my maturity timeframes right? Because if I'm not starting them inside, is there more of a growth runway here? So let's look at that. It says 80 to 90 days to maturity. So let's do some math here. If I just take 85 days as an average between the two, divided by 7 days a week, we're looking at 12 weeks from seed start to bloom. So if I plant it here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, I am wrong. So I need to move this bloom to the first week in June. So you can kind of see how I'm doing this sheet. And then I wrote a note to myself, assess succession. And what I mean by that is once they hopefully bloom and do well, at that time in mid-June, during the week, during the middle of June, I can then look at it and go, gosh, do I want to do more? Does it make sense for me to plant more? Do I not enjoy these plants? Are they a pain in the butt? Do they not like me? And I've made that note because I've researched that they are a good type of plant to do succession planting. So I could plant another set and another set, and they get more fresh harvests over time. Some plants aren't good for that. So this is a really helpful tool. And another thing I've done is I've put in blue the plants that are cool flowers, like cool plants that do really well in early season, so they do great in the tunnel with the purple planting signal here, or they do well in the fall. Some of those plants don't like the heat of the summer, so that way I can kind of keep things straight. Definitely getting into sunflowers this year. So what I did, because there's lots of different varieties of sunflowers out there that are just amazing, I've ordered a bunch that I really like. And these are just examples from before. It's not that I'm going to follow this to the letter, but it gives an idea. It gives me an idea of what it's going to take to grow all these different types. I think what's cool about this, if I zoom out and you see the succession planting that I'm doing on these, it's just kind of wild. So as you can see here, I would grow the seeds indoors for, maybe 4 to 5 weeks for this particular variety of sunflower, starting them at the end of March, and then plant them outside once the last average frost date has hit, so that I'm not running into the danger of frost. And then in theory, granted, things can go not to plan, but in theory, they could bloom, maybe even as early as the end of May. And then you can see over time, as I keep doing this every 1 to 2 weeks and do definite succession plantings for sunflowers, it's really cool to see this play out, where each set I'm starting, every couple of weeks, and then subsequently planting them outside. And then you get to a point where it's definitely safe, and the soil temperature should be warm enough by the end of May to direct sow them outside. So I don't have those yellow phases of time anymore. It's just all outside work. And I know from experience that planting sunflower seeds outside in the warm season is totally workable on our land, in our garden beds. They do really well. And then you can see that bloom time frame, so that we have blooms going all the way through October is the idea. And I'm not going to follow this to the letter, of course, but I wanted to play it out with about, I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of sunflowers, just to see how it kind of plays out and get a feel for like the average time frames of when I would start things and when things could start to be in bloom roughly, which feels really great. And then I'm going to zoom back in. As we go down the sheet, you can see I've got some zinnias in here, and I have some question marks, things I might want to try. I haven't had the best luck starting them indoors. You can start them inside. They just get really gangly, and I haven't done a lot with pinching them back to keep them short and robust. I might try to do things like that this year. I generally have a lot of success just direct sowing them outside. So I just have a question mark there. Like, do I just get them in the ground as soon as I can in May? Again, the soil temperature needs to be warm enough. So I'm kind of thinking mid-May, not right after the frost date passes. And then I'm also wondering, do I do a couple different succession plants? Like do I plant another set here in June? They do great throughout the season. These are the very large giant zinnia varieties that grow 3-4 feet tall. And they do tire out over time, even if you take really great care of them and cut them back a lot. So I'm thinking maybe a couple different successions of those. I'm definitely going to get the Queenie Lime Orange as well, because they're so, so beautiful. And then lastly, I didn't map out different phases in here yet. I might for these different types of vegetables and herbs that we will also enjoy. This column here, I decided to document whether the plants are deer resistant. So that's what DR stands for. Because I did start I have a couple beds that are out in the open, and I have the one strip with the tunnel that are not fenced in. They're not protected from deer. And we've got a lot of deer that come through. So I wanted to know, like, which ones are considered deer resistant. Obviously that can change in real life. Like, they could still go after stuff, but I want to at least know that before I put something out there, and then go through trial and error myself and see. And then this column, I'm writing down any details about the exact name of the plant if I want to document it, or what seed house I bought it from, like Johnny or Harris. Here in the planting section, I did document quite a few of them, like how far apart to plant them as a note for myself. So for example, the ranunculus, my research showed 9 inches apart per plant, whereas a lot of other plants you can see are like 6 inches apart, things like that. Or with snapdragons, I've done more research on them to understand the different groups throughout the season. So if you're not familiar and you're really interested in snapdragons, they have different groups that grow better at different times of the season. So that is something I really want to maximize. I love them. I love growing them as a cut flower. Had a great season last year with them. And so I started my first group 1 here, and then I'm going to be doing groups 2, 3, and 3 and 4 subsequently over time, so that I'm maximizing that so they can perform the best that they can in the season. For example, group 1, that seed would not do well in the middle of summer. It does not handle heat the way that a group 3 or 4 definitely does. So I'm just pumped because I feel like I'm getting smarter at this stuff, and there's so much to learn. There's endless things to learn. It's very, very fun. And I kind of enjoy researching and documenting it. I think it's really satisfying. And then I don't have to memorize it all. I don't have to try to know all the things. I can lean on this, I can tweak it, and then I can open it up every week and go, okay, what do I get to do this week? Yay. And then kind of plan for it and say, oh gosh, look at week of February 17th. I got some stuff to do. So it's very, very fun. Something that I really, really look forward to. So that's my sheet so far. I don't know if this is helpful. If you have comments or suggestions or ideas or things that you do to manage your schedule as you manage your garden plan, I would love to hear about it. All right, let's do a garden tray tour of what we got so far. So this is our Lisianthus Doubleini Blue. We've got 3 trays. These are the first ones I started seeding here about a month ago. And they are itty bitty. So tiny. But they're here. And I know they grow super slow. This tray probably looks the best of them all. It's very deceiving as a gardener because when I just look at the tray, like I come up to it, it doesn't look like there's much there. And this is the same exact set of seeds. Like if you look at it, it doesn't look like there's a lot there at first glance, but honestly, actually the camera here on my phone is actually picking up the green better than I do with the human eye. It's actually really encouraging because when I come up to the tray, it doesn't look like there's a lot going on, but you can see there are little bits of life happening. They are tricky. People are not kidding when they say they're kind of fussy and hard to grow. I keep reading, don't water them a lot, like let them dry out. And I have been doing that. In fact, these soil blocks get dry pretty quick. And I have them in the basement. I've got them at the cooler end of 60 degree, like mid 60s to low 60s here. And I have them, you know, off of the heat mat. And I'm just playing around to figure out what's the right mix of things. Conditions, because you know there's what the book says and what people say, and then there's what's happening in your real world. And I'm playing with putting the dome lid on them and taking it off. Like today I put the dome lid on this just to keep the moisture a little bit more. I mean, they're not real damp, they're just a little bit moist, and they do look good. So I'm thinking I'll take it off for tomorrow and just see how they do. The reason that they are annoying is because they don't do a lot. And so you have a hard time as a gardener assessing, are they doing well? Do they need something? Don't they need something? Are they dying? I know I've lost some. I expected that. I am really excited to show you the little tiny babies in this one, which is white snapdragons, the group 1. And the silver plate eucalyptus. Let's take the lid off. Look at that. They look amazing. I love growing snapdragons. Look at those. Aren't they cute? They're just darling. So they're just starting to get out of the ground, do their thing. They are so satisfying to grow, easy to grow, I think. And then over here on the end, 2 rows of eucalyptus. You can see again, just like the other tray, got some little babies. They are pretty darn cute. The thing that I did for the Lisianthus, and frankly for any plants here, I got some of these fungus gnat little traps. It's a sticky thing. It's really super sticky on both sides. You can see there's a couple gnats stuck to it. They do a good job of capturing the gnats so that they don't bother the soil. And they're handy for just potted plants, you know, house plants too. So I feel good about that. I feel like I've got a good solution there to capture them, especially as I open up the dome lids on some of these. And, you know, we've got the little gnats that fly around, so I want to make sure we get after them. So now we've got 4 active trays here in the seed room, and we're just going to keep on going.